Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the CSC webinar series. Uh, Today, we are going to look at uh, installing your own applications in Taito. Uh, CSC offers a rather large selection of software, and to see what we already order, you can go to our homepage research.csc.fi. And if you go to software, you can find an alphabetical list of uh, installed software. The web pages have most software listed, but there might be some software packages that are not really supported or have been installed for testing and so on. So it's also a good idea to use the module spider command on actual Taito server. In this case, I'm logged into Taito shell. So module spider will give you a list of all available packages. But there are, of course, lots and lots of scientific software, and we can't provide everything. So that's why we provide you with the user-able area in Taito shell, so you can install your own applications. And on our home pages, if you go to support, guides, CSC Computing Environment User Guide, and they on chapter 3 and especially 3.1 user-specific directories will provide information on the various disk areas we provide and what in. So there's about home, about work, and if you scroll down, you will find section 3.1.5 about installing software to userable. And we are actually going through the same example as we have here on the web page, so you can follow it here. I perhaps try to cover a bit more details as we go along. So, of course, the first thing you have to do when you want to install is to find the software. So you probably already have the software home pages. In this case, we are going to install a program called MCL. And it's a good idea to read through the user guide provided by the software developers to see if they provide any installation instructions. For example, here they provide at least part. So we need to download the software. It should be noted that the installation procedure depends a bit on what language the program has been written. So typically, for example, Java programs, you don't really need to install them. It's enough just to open the package and they are ready to use. Same for interpreted languages like Python and Perl. So in this webinar, we are mainly looking at C programs because lots of scientific software is written in the C programming language. If the software developer provides a suitable binary version, it's worth trying it. So the Taito machine is a 64-bit Linux system. So you could check uh, if they provide a suitable binary. However, sometimes they provide the binary distribution as distribution package, such as an RPM or something like that, and those will not work because they try to write the software to the user bin or one of the protected system directories. And with normal user writes, we are only able to write to our own directory. So in this case, we don't have a suitable binary version to try, so we'll have to start from source file. Here, I'm actually running the browser on my Windows machine, so I could download the program to my Windows machine and then upload it to Taito. Instead, I'm cutting a few corners and let's see in the browser say copy link address. And when I go and first change to my user Apple folder. And it's a good idea to make a new folder for each program so that keeps your user Apple folder from becoming a mess in the long run. So I make a new directory for this program and move to that new directory. And then I can use the wget command with the link I just copied from the web page. And this way, I can download the package directly to Taito, and I don't have to first copy it to my own computer. In this case, the package is very small, so it doesn't really matter. But sometimes the packages can be quite large, and then of course it makes sense not to move it back and forth. In this case, the package, if you look at the file name, we can see it's a gzip tar file. So we will first need to uncompress it. So we use the tar command. X means we want to open it, extract it. And we need to use the F there to tell it file. And then the file name. And if we now check, we created a new folder, extracted the files to this new folder. Typically, the distribution pocket, it will have some sort of README files or install files, and it of course makes sense to check those. For instructions. Not all programs have these help files included, so then you just have to try to check the web pages to see. So now we are ready to install. Uh, by default, the CSC environment comes with Intel compiler environment. We can use the module list command to see the currently loaded modules. So we have the Intel compiler and Intel MPI libraries loaded. Many scientific programs are actually developed using the ECC package, and quite often those won't compile without small changes with the Intel compiler. So, of course, again, check the program instruction to see if the program developers have any preferences on compilers they recommend. In this case, this is made with CCC, so it's probably compiles easiest with CCC. So we start by swapping the Intel compiler environment to the default CCC. Well, and if we now check what we have loaded, you can see that we have now CCC 4.9.3 instead of the Intel 16.0.0. Next, many programs that are built with CCC have this configure script you can run, and that script will check all your library versions and will configure the makefile so that it's suitable for our current environment. If it's not included, then you may have to edit the makefile yourself, but in this case, we have this configure script, so we can just run it. And just running it like this would set up all the libraries correctly and so forth. But one problem is that quite often the installation part of the program has been written so that it will try to install the program to user bin or one of these system folders. And as I mentioned a moment ago, we cannot write those, so the installation would give us errors about not being able to write. So if we go back to the install file, you can file here the instructions. And if we scroll down, we see that there's actually this prefix option available. It usually is, but it's worth checking that it is. So we can say for example, like this. Okay, it won't. let's do this. I should actually read the instruction and not just tell you to read them. So sorry about that. So it will now check our system and it will create a make file for us. So now we can simply say make, and it will now compile and link the software for us. With some programs, if they are more complex, this phase can take quite a while. This is a fairly simple program, so it should go by fairly quickly. Now we can do make install. And now it's installed. So I told it to install this folder into our user apples/mcl folder. So now we have here the bin folder that has our MCL program. So it's now installed and ready to use, but it should be noted that it's not in our default search path. So if I have my data, for example, in my work dir, and I would go there and just say, so let's do this. So I'm now in my work dir, and if I simply say MCL, it will tell me command not found. It does not know where to look for that program. So one option is that instead of just giving the program, we can tell the computer the actual the whole path where we can find the software, and that will work. We could also add it to our default path using the export command. And we will add that folder to our path. And now the program is actually found. However, if I would now to log out and log back in, this again, I would have to give that export command again, or I could go to my home directory. And here I have a file called .bashrc, and I could add that export command here, and then it would be run every time I open a new window, and then the program is ready to use. There's one sort of consideration. If you add stuff here, and please feel free to do so, but also remember that especially if you do something that, for example, loads modules or something like that, then it's good. Please remember to mention that if you have some problem and send a query, why doesn't this thing work like in your web pages? Then the reason might be that if you add something like that here, then your system is no longer works exactly the same as the default system, and then some of the instructions and web pages, for example, might not work quite as is. So you can add here, but please remember if you add something here, so you can sort of adjust when necessary. On our web pages, so here we went through the example of installing your own version of MCL program. There are also examples for installing your own Perl modules or Python modules, but that's a bit separate subject, so we are not going to go to that today. But if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. Here the question is that sometimes you have a pre-compiled version that requires some libraries, and in those cases, please contact service desk at csc.fi with the program and with the details, and we'll see what we can do. So either help you install local versions of the required libraries, or in some cases install. It may be better that we install them, depending on the libraries. But please contact, service desk, and me or one of our other specialists will look at it, and we'll see what we can do. That is also a subject for another webinar, but I might also mention here that in some really difficult cases, when we really can't get something to install on Taito, then there's still sort of one backup plan to get it running, and that's to get it run on cPauta virtual server, because then we could install some other version of Linux, for example. Perhaps an older one or something like that. So in difficult cases, that might be the option to get something to run. But I would say in most cases, we get stuff running on Taito. But if there are any other questions, then thanks a lot for your attention. And I might reiterate that any feedback will be much appreciated and very valuable for us.